Prime Minister Mark Carney ahead of what's likely his last caucus meeting of 2025 this morning, and outgoing Canadian ambassador to the U.S. Kirsten Hillman speaking with CTV News last night. She's stepping down, and multiple sources have told us the plan is for former Canada Pension Plan Investment Board Chair Mark Wiseman to step into her shoes. So what could it all mean for Canada-U.S. relations ahead of next year's more formal CUSMA review? With me now, former Canadian ambassadors to the U.S., Derek Burney and David McNaughton. Hello to you both. A pleasure to see you. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate it. I wanted to start off on Ms. Hillman's departure because I know both of you know her quite well. Mr. McNaughton, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on her tenure as ambassador and her involvement in renegotiating NAFTA and the decision to step aside? Well,
you know, I had the pleasure of working with her for a couple of years, and she helped she was great during the negotiations of the agreement. She was always supportive. She's very, very smart, and I think she did a great job. And I think her stated reason for leaving is exactly, you know, it is what she feels, and I think it's a great thing for her to step aside and let somebody else take over at a time when obviously there's going to be a lot of discussions that are probably going to take more than 6 months. And I think it was, you know, she just did a terrific job. And as I say, it was a pleasure for me to work with her. She really supported me and the whole team when we were negotiating things. And I certainly wish her well. She did a great job for our country. Mr. Burney, your thoughts on Ms. Hillman and her departure?
So everything that David has said. She's a superb individual. She's done a fantastic job as our ambassador in Washington, and probably the most difficult time that I have ever observed in terms of Canada-U.S. relations. You know, she combines trade expertise that are incomparable, strong resolve, and diplomatic tact. That's a powerful combination, and that's why I think she's done a terrific job in very difficult circumstances.
Mr. McNaughton, let's talk about jumping off that, the path ahead for whomever, and the Prime Minister says the formal announcement should come in the next few weeks for whomever takes over. He also described the Prime Minister today sort of a window before things really get started in earnest with CUSMA next year. What do you think the most important task ahead of the next ambassador in that window is? Well, I think you know, there are a lot of things that are likely or could happen in the next few weeks that'll set the stage. One of them is the Supreme Court's decision on the IEEPA tariffs and whether or not they are, you know, legal and everything else. That could change the whole tenor of the conversation in Washington. I think the one thing you've just got to understand with, you know, the President of the United States, and particularly in the second term, although it was somewhat the same when I was there, is it's very difficult to predict what he's going to do next. So you have to be, you know, flexible. You have to, you know, it's really hard work. You've got to anticipate that the unanticipated is going to occur. So whoever the new ambassador is, I think, you know, it's going to be a challenge, but, you know, getting to know not just people in Washington, but also people in the business community and all over the place in the United States who have some influence on the political system in Washington. You know, it's a big job to get up to speed on that, but I'm quite confident that you know, Kirsten's replacement will be up to it. Speaking of sort of how things unfold in the new year, particularly, Mr. Burney, around CUSMA, I want to play for you something that the USTR, Jameson Greer, said today about pursuing bilateral negotiations with Canada and Mexico instead of trilateral ones. I'll play that clip and then I'll get your reaction, sir.
Our economic relationship with Canada is very, very different than our economic relationship with Mexico. The labor situation is different. The import-export profile is different. The rule of law is different. So it makes sense to talk about things separately with Canada and Mexico. My sense going forward is we're already talking to them separately.
Sure.
I have not had a meeting this year where I sat with Canada and Mexico in a room and we sat together and talked about USMCA.
Interestingly, Mr. Bernie, the three people who did sit in the same room are the heads of all three of countries, right? Prime Minister Carney, President Trump, and President Sheinbaum on Friday were together for 45 minutes without any staff. But this is a very, a person in an official capacity saying that he anticipates bilateral negotiations. Should Canada resist that?
Well, I mean, we do have interests with the United States that are quite different from those of Mexico. And I've always been in favor of a bilateral approach as opposed to the trilateral, although the trilateral has done some good things. So I absolutely support the notion that we should proceed bilaterally. A common problem that we're going to have is on rule of origin, because the Americans are now making unfounded, including Jameson Greer, making unfounded complaints about Canada and Mexico becoming a dumping ground for China, for Chinese steel, for Chinese whatever. And, that's ridiculous. Dealing with the Trump administration on anything is a bit like pro wrestling. You have to first distinguish what's real between white reality and what is for show. And a lot of what this administration does is for show. We've got to keep our cool. As David said earlier, we shouldn't react to every quip that is made. I mean, this is a president who demeans and belittles allies while he's placating his adversaries. Go figure. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, this week, Europe is under the gun and Ukraine under the bus. But, next week it could be different. Meanwhile, he's contemplating a war with Venezuela as he pursues the Nobel Peace Prize. Well, go figure.
Go figure pretty much sums it up.
Well, I think I would only add that the lesson in all this is we have to be patient. We can't react to the quip of the day or the lunge of the day, because you know what? The good news is Trump's popularity in the United States is not what it once was, and it's not going to get any better. When he claims that affordability, which is what most Americans are concerned about, is a hoax, that doesn't really resonate. And so, we have to be patient. By next year, the congressional midterm elections may throw another spanner into the works for him. Then he'll be lamer than a lame duck for the final 2 years of his presidency. So keep our cool, keep our cards to our chest. We've got good cards to play in a negotiation. If it's bilateral, so much the better.
I have just a few seconds left. I'll give the final word to you, Mr. McNaughton. Just very quickly, would you support a bilateral basis going forward for negotiations?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Derek said. And we already have a bilateral relationship with the United States. It's called NORAD. And I think one of the things that's going to happen, I mean, some of the tariffs that are on Canada are under Section 232, which suggests that steel and aluminum imports, among others, are a national security threat to the United States. Well, first of all, it's nonsense. But also, I think it gives us an opportunity to wrap the defense and security discussion as part of any kind of trade discussion. And I think we can, given what the Prime Minister said about increase in defense spending and given the interests of a lot of businesses in the United States in selling things to Canada, I think we've got some leverage. And I totally agree with Derek that, what we really need to do is to make sure we've got patience and not overreact to everything that's going on. And I think things will work out. We just have to keep our cards close to our chest, not do a lot of public talking, but make sure that at the end of the day, any deal we do is a good deal for this country, and I think we can achieve that.
Appreciate very much the both of you making time for the conversation this evening. Thank you to former Canadian ambassadors to the U.S., David McNaughton and Derek Burney.